Hi guys, my name's Sophie and today I'm going to be doing a book tag, and the tag that I'm going to do is the Creatures of the Night book tag. This tag was created by Catty-tastic, and although I wasn't tagged by anyone, it is very Halloween themed and I thought I'd better do it now before Halloween's over, otherwise I will have to wait until next year or come up with a really flimsy excuse for a reason to do it. For this tag, you're given a different creature of the night and you have to pick your favourite kind of book with that creature in. This for me has been quite difficult for some of the questions, but I will explain that as I go through. So let's get started. For Vampire, I have picked the Morganville Vampire series by Rachel Caine. I've gone on about this series quite a few times. It's quite a lengthy series, 15 books in total, but I really like a long series. I really like this kind of world and I'm really enjoying the TV show at the minute. I need to reread them because I haven't finished the series and I've kind of forgotten some of the details about what's going on, but I really like this series. The vampires are actually bad. In the majority of cases they are like proper vampires, they're not like Twilight vampires, so they do drink blood and they do want to kill humans and they can't go out in the daytime, and I quite like that. I really like this series, so I have picked these books for Vampire. For Werewolf I struggled a little bit because I don't read that many books centred around werewolves. I am going to start reading the Shiver trilogy very soon because my friend Alicia has been badgering me to, but I haven't got round to it. And although there are a lot of books that have kind of werewolves as side characters, there aren't that many that I've read that are kind of like about werewolves. So I've had to go with one where they're not about werewolves but they're featured, and I have gone for the Infernal Devices and basically any Shadowhunter Chronicles book because there are werewolves in all of them, they're just kind of side characters. So in this trilogy you've got Wolsey Scott, who is kind of like the leader of the werewolves at the time in London, and I quite like the werewolves in this in that they do have a transformation every full moon, but they can also turn into a werewolf kind of on cue. Zombie is, I'm sure, going to be a really predictable guess for everyone watching who's seen some of my previous videos because I've gone on about this series so much this month, and it is The Enemy by Charlie Higson series. This is the third book and oh my god guys, I love this series, it's so good. There are a couple chapters where you actually get to read from the perspective of the zombie, like from the perspective of one of these grown-ups who's slowly turning into a zombie, and I hated all of the zombies in these books until I read that chapter, at which point I felt really, really bad for that zombie and it made me cry. But this series is so good. It's terrifying but really interesting and really fun to read, and like you never know who's safe from the zombies, which I quite enjoy. I think it's nice to like, you can't trust that your main characters are going to stay alive, and that makes it all a little bit more tense. So these are definitely books that I would recommend. Ghost. Now for Ghost, again, there aren't that many books that I've read that are about ghosts. There's the Mediator series, but none of the ghosts in that I really like as ghosts. Like Jesse's alright, but I like him more because he's the love interest rather than because he's a ghost. So for this I have gone for Harry Potter, and I'm picking Peeves the Poltergeist, who you will only know if you read the books because they cut him out of the movies because they're idiots. Peeves is basically the most annoying ghost ever created, and like I love the idea of him pissing everyone off and like, I don't know, helping the twins to cause mayhem. I just really like that, and I needed to include Harry Potter in here somewhere, but I didn't want to include it for Wizard because that's such an easy one to go for. Which wizard or spellcaster? For spellcaster I have, instead of Harry Potter, gone for Jinx by Meg Cabot. This is about a girl who thinks she's cursed. I haven't read it in a very, very long time, but from what I remember, it's got a very nice kind of what happens if magic was real, how would real teenagers react to it kind of thing. And I really enjoyed this. I really love Meg Cabot's writing, and I will probably reread some of her books next year. I'm thinking that next year's going to be a thing for series that I already own rather than starting new ones, and Meg Cabot's books are really nice and quite kind of down to earth despite all the weird stuff that happens in them. So this is my pick for Wizard, Witch or Spellcaster. Fairy. For Fairy, I did have a couple of choices, and I've gone for one that I haven't seen anyone pick for this tag so far. It's Knife by R.J. Anderson. This series, I love the fairies in this series. I love Knife. She's such a badass. Like, she's total badass. The series basically revolves around several different fairies from different points. So there's this one, and then the next one is Rebel, but Rebel happens like 20 years afterwards or something. So they're not quite a series, they're more like companion novel series, but they're great books, they're really interesting, and the magic world, and each of the main characters is very different. So like Knife is not similar to Rebel in their story arc, even though they've got similarities in their personality, and I quite like his writing. I think they're really good books, and I really want to finish the series. So this is my choice for Fairy. Demon. For Demons, I've gone for a little bit of an unusual choice and picked His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. This is the bind-up of all three books, so the Golden Compass, the Amber Spyglass and the Subtle Knife. However, this is the Italian version, which we own, because I can't find our bind-up that's in English at the minute, and I can't find our standalones in English, which worries me slightly, because I do really want to reread some of this and finish the series. I have seen the play, so I do know kind of the entire plotline, but this book series trilogy thing is fantastic. Philip Pullman is a brilliant writer and just like pretty decent human being as well, so like go and check him out and stuff that he says. And I really like these books. They're about a girl called Lyra who is kind of, she's a bit reckless and a bit like doesn't do what she's told, and it's kind of about her and her parents and people who are trying to look after her, mixed in with scientists who are trying to find this thing called dust and discover what it does and how it affects kids. And there's witches involved, and there's talking polar bears, and if you haven't heard of His Dark Materials, I'd be very surprised, but they're such a great trilogy. And the reason that I've picked demons for this one is because in the world that Lyra lives in, your soul is your demon, and it is a physical animal. And while you're a child, that animal kind of changes shape, and it accompanies you everywhere, and it has its own name and its own identity. And it changes shape depending on what you need it to be or how it's feeling. So if you're kind of sneaking around, it'll be something small, or if you need protecting, it might kind of turn into a wild cat, like a tiger or a lion. And then when you become an adult, it picks an animal and sticks to it for the rest of its life. And I think they're much nicer demons than any of the like scary ones. And these demons in this are actually quite important, whereas in a lot of books demons are kind of just like the bad guy that don't really get talked about much, but they're actually really important in this series. So I would definitely recommend picking up this trilogy. Angels. For Angel, I have picked Fallen by Lauren Kate. I know that a lot of people don't really like this series. I quite enjoyed it. I found it like quite long, but that was mainly because of how long between each book there was and the fact that it was quite complicated. So it wasn't the greatest book, but I wanted to pick something that was actually about angels rather than just have like reference to them like the Shadowhunter books. So this is about a girl called Lucy who goes to kind of reform school after she gets in trouble at home, and there she meets Daniel, and it kind of spirals from there about angels and fallen angels and who's good and who's bad, and kind of keeping her safe but also trying to fix the war that's going on between the fallen angels and the angels of God. So it's an interesting premise. I would recommend reading Paradise Lost before you read this because it'll help with understanding what's going on. How does this thing work? Alien. Is it on? Is it on? Are you on? For Alien, I have picked the I Am Number 4 series. I have had a little bit of trouble with this series, but it's basically the only series of books that I've read about aliens, so I had to go for something, and I went for this. I don't know how you really describe the I Am Number 4 series. It's about aliens that come to Earth, and it's okay. Like, it's good. It's not fantastic, it's good. But I am going to give it another try because a lot of people have said that they really enjoyed it, so I will try it again maybe it'll be better. Superpowered human. For Superpowered Human, again, it's going to be a pretty obvious thing because I've talked about this series non-stop for like 2 months, and it is the Gone series by Michael Grant. This series of books is so good, and the powers that they have are so interesting, and like none of the characters are good. They've all got flaws, and even the bad ones have got good traits, and it's just, oh, I really love this series. It made me cry during this book several times. Several times. But I really loved it. I thought the characters were really well rounded, and I thought the plot was very interesting and kind of went in directions that I wouldn't have taken it, but I think worked really, really well. So that's it for me for this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!